Meet Dam. He did everything right. Saved for years, found the perfect home. Quiet street, trees everywhere. His wife loved it. His cubs had a yard to run in. For the first time in his life, Dam felt like he'd made it. Then, the machines arrived. It started with construction noise. Dam didn't think much of it. Every neighborhood gets a new building eventually, right? But this wasn't a shopping center. It wasn't a school. It was something far, far bigger. Just a few hundred meters from Dam's front door, a colossal AI data center was rising from the ground, floor by floor, week by week, right in the middle of what used to be a peaceful stretch of North Virginia jungle. Dam told himself, once the construction ends, life goes back to normal. He was wrong. The construction ended, and then the real nightmare began. Because the moment that building switched on, Dam's world changed forever. First, the electricity bill arrived, 20% higher than before. He figured it was a glitch, checked his appliances, nothing had changed. But next month it came again, 30%, then 40%. Dam owns his own cleaning business. He knows what margins look like, and this was slow suffocation. But he could live with money problems. What he couldn't live with was what was happening to his cubs. Every single night, his children couldn't sleep. Not because of bad dreams, not because of a noisy street, because the building down the road never, ever goes quiet. Thousands of machines, thousands of fans, thousands of servers spinning at full speed around the clock, generating a deep, low hum that you don't just hear, you feel it. Through the walls, through the floor, through your chest. His cubs thought aliens had moved in outside. And honestly, looking at the blinding floodlights flooding through the curtains at 2 a.m., Dam couldn't really disagree. So he spent 20,000 bananas, a small fortune, on new insulation and replacement windows. And you know what happened? It helped. A little. But here's where it gets worse. While Dam was replacing his windows, trying to reclaim some peace for his family, the permits were already approved. 3 more data centers, same neighborhood, same street, coming soon. And that's not the shocking part. The shocking part is that Dam's story isn't unusual. It isn't bad luck. It isn't a freak accident of geography. It is the new normal. So what exactly is going on? Why are these things popping up everywhere? And who is really paying the price? Let's break it down, because the deeper you go, the darker it gets. Here's the first thing you need to understand. An old-school data center is like a library. It stores information, it retrieves information. Calm, quiet, efficient. An AI data center? That's a completely different beast. Think of it like the difference between a bookshelf and a brain that never sleeps. Because AI data centers aren't storing data. They're processing it, generating it, thinking, calculating, and spitting out responses, images, videos, code, and text every single day of every single day. And that difference, that's everything. Because generating intelligence from scratch takes astronomically more power than simply retrieving a file. A single AI server rack can consume 5 to 20 times the electricity of a traditional server. That's the equivalent of 80 average households powered by one rack. Now picture a warehouse. Hundreds of racks, maybe thousands, all running all the time. All of them in Dam's backyard. But wait, if these things are so expensive, so power-hungry, so disruptive, why is everyone building them? One word: gold. Right now, the megacorporations, OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon believe we are at the beginning of the most profitable technological revolution in human history, and they are not waiting around to find out if they're right. Microsoft? 80 billion bananas, just in 2025. Google? 75 billion. Meta? 64 billion. Over the next 5 years, analysts predict a spine-tingling 3 trillion bananas will be poured into AI data center construction across the globe. 3 trillion. In Northern Virginia alone, Dam's home, over 300 data centers either exist or are being built. Amazon alone owns 177. And across the entire U.S. jungle, over 1,200 data centers tracked as of the end of 2024. That's nearly 4 times the number from just 15 years ago. And more than 2 are being built every single week. So no, Dam, this isn't bad luck. You just happened to buy a home in the middle of a war zone. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean infuriating. Because you might be thinking, okay, tech companies are investing heavily, but at least they're paying for it, right? They are not paying for it. You are. Here's how the trick works. AI data centers need enormous amounts of electricity, more than local power grids were ever built to handle. So energy companies have to build new infrastructure, new power plants, new transmission lines, new substations. And all of that construction, it gets baked into your electricity bill. Not theirs, yours. In Virginia, one energy company openly stated it would need to double electricity generation by 2039 just to keep up with data center demand. And expanding the grid like that could cost hundreds of billions of bananas. Want to guess who foots that bill? Households in data center-heavy regions are already seeing electricity costs rise 10 to 20%. But some projections show bills climbing as high as 50% before the decade is out. 50%. For an AI future that nobody in Dam's neighborhood voted for. But wait, it gets worse. Heat. The single biggest enemy of an AI data center is heat. All those racks, all that processing, all that raw computing power generates heat on an almost incomprehensible scale. So how do they cool it down? Water. Industrial amounts of it. A single large AI data center can consume up to 5 million gallons of water per day. 5 million gallons. And here's the twist that'll make your jaw drop. Nearly half of the largest data centers in the world are located in areas already facing water scarcity. Not near rivers, not near lakes, in drought zones. Microsoft has 5 data centers in Arizona estimated to consume enough water to sustain a city the size of Portland, Maine. Google and Amazon are doing the same across Texas and Colorado. But wait, didn't Microsoft, Google, and Amazon all pledge to be water positive by 2030? Yes, they did. And here's how they plan to achieve it. They pay other people to save water on their behalf through something called water credits, while they continue draining millions of gallons in drought-stricken communities. Think about that. They're not using less water. They're just paying someone else to use less water so that on paper, the numbers balance out. Meanwhile, Dam's water bill climbs, his neighbor's water bills climb, and the megacorps tick a box in their sustainability report. But let's go back to Dam's house for a moment. Because beyond the bills, beyond the money, there's a quality of life problem that no amount of insulation can fully fix. The noise never stops. Not the kind of noise you get used to. The deep, low-frequency vibration of industrial cooling systems is the kind of noise that sits below conscious hearing and burrows straight into your nervous system. And it runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Then, they're the generators, diesel-powered backup generators, hundreds of them per facility. When Dam opens his windows, the S-smell hits him before the sound does. And he wonders about his cubs playing outside. The thing is, in many areas, AI data centers only need to file an air quality permit for those generators. No environmental impact study, no community consultation, no public hearing. Just a form, and they're good to go. But here's something fascinating buried inside that policy failure. Investigative journalists have started using those air quality permits as tracking tools, because in many cases, it's the only public record that a data center is being built at all. These billion-dollar facilities are being constructed in communities deliberately kept secret, hidden behind shell companies and non-disclosure agreements. You are not supposed to know this is happening. not until the construction crew is already on your street. And the lights. Damn used to sleep with stars. Now his bedroom glows all night long. Stadium-grade floodlights, security lighting, perimeter illumination. A synthetic daylight that never fades, never dims, never sleeps. The trucks come all the clock too. Equipment deliveries, server replacements, maintenance teams. The road outside, once quiet and lined with trees, now carries a constant stream of heavy vehicles. Roads cracking, traffic building, children playing in streets that weren't designed for this. It is, in every meaningful word of the word, a neighborhood that has been repurposed. Not for the people who live there, for the machines. But here's the part of the story that gives you a sliver of hope. Dam is angry. And Dam is not alone. Hundreds of communities across the U.S. jungle have started fighting back. Town halls, zoning meetings, petitions, protests, and some of them are winning. Because of mounting community pressure, up to 64 billion bananas worth of AI data center projects have been stopped or delayed. Even in Northern Virginia, Ground Zero, residents have forced local governments to demand environmental impact assessments, noise ordinances, and construction pauses. The megacorps are being made to flinch, even the ones hiding behind shell companies. But let's be honest about the power gap here. Dam is working with GoFundMe pages and weekend town hall meetings. The other side has armies of lawyers, lobbyists, and 3 trillion bananas to spend. So here's the question worth sitting with. Is this progress? Or is progress just the word powerful monkeys use when they mean your sacrifice for our profit? Because the AI revolution will be extraordinary for the monkeys building it. But right now, the monkeys paying for it are people like Dam. Families who moved somewhere quiet, parents trying to put their cubs to sleep, people who never asked for any of this. And the most quotable truth of this entire story is this: the cost of the future is always paid by the people who had the least say in designing it. Speak to your local representatives, show up to zoning meetings, ask questions, demand transparency. Or don't, it's a free jungle. But one day, and maybe sooner than you think, it might be your neighborhood, your bills, your children staring at floodlights instead of stars, for an AI future you never voted for. For legal reasons, this video is satire about fictional monkeys in a make-believe jungle. Please do not sue Monkey. We'll see you in the next one.